Welcome! In this video I will show you great and brilliant moves by Gukesh, the winner of the Candidates 2024. Let's check out this amazing game against MVL. Do you see the winning move in this position? Knight takes b5. Why is this such a brilliant move? Well, first, if you take, well, then you simply win the queen. That is straightforward. But what about a different move? For example, if you take the queen. What about then? Well, Gukesh saw everything already in advance. We see that this pawn is hanging with a check. Let's go. But now we simply win the queen. And then what? Well, you take the knight and then there's an amazing fork here. Check, king goes here and you win the rook. So imagine that Gukesh saw that fork already when he played this move. And during the same game, a few moves later against the same MVL, he plays a second and a third brilliant move. Here, the brilliant move is knight takes f7. Why? Well, if you would take back, then you simply take the knight because you get rid of the defender of this pawn, and if it takes back, then the rook gets in. And this will be simply a checkmate sooner or later. So instead, here MVL played knight to d3, taking the bishop, leaving this square as well, but threatening checkmate here. So he needs to act and takes the bishop and also defending the checkmating square over here. Brilliant move. And then MVL goes back to defend. How are you gonna go and provide the checkmate now? Because this pawn is being protected now. Well, you don't care, and Gukesh simply takes the pawn. Rook takes g6. What a move! And if you take back, well, Gukesh simply takes the knight, and still remember that this pawn is being defended by the bishop and still also by the knight. And after you take the bishop, well, now the rook slides in, setting up this x-ray attack. And you cannot really escape because there's a check and the king has to go back. And knight to h6 is a check. You can't go here, you can't go here. Bishop in between, check, and here to checkmate. Here Gukesh plays against Pragg. Look at this position. This pawn is about to promote. This pawn is blocked by the rook, but there's another passer. This queen is a bit awkwardly placed. What is going on? We don't know. Well, Gukesh plays the amazing move a6. He doesn't care about this pawn and will promote. That's his plan. How? Well, you will see it later. Here Pragg plays knight to c3 and Gukesh puts his rook forward. The best move for Pragg would have been to go e2 and start to get a promotion. But he doesn't and plays the move h6. Very slow. What is the winning move here now? Another brilliancy. Giving up the queen. Taking the rook. Why is this such a good move? Well, if you take back, you will promote with the other pawn. a7. Attacking the rook. And if you would take it, for example, well, this is a check and you win the rook. That's not what Pragg did. Played knight to d7 and now you promote to a queen anyway. And here Gukesh is simply up and this pawn will not go very far. Then here Gukesh plays against buddy Pranav. So he played MVL, Pragg, here Pranav. Not the worst players in the world, all very high class players. Do you see the amazing move in this position? Rook takes d4. Check! Why is this such a good move? Well, the king was attacking your bishop and defending this bishop, but here you get rid of the bishop and you of course take the rook. And maybe you thought, well, then you have a check here, but the king can simply take the bishop. No, 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 no. The winning move in this position is to play h7 and the rook cannot come behind. And if you go for a check and another check, maybe you think that rook to a1 will be winning. No, because you promote with a check and you win the rook in the end. But if the king would have been on a square like d5, for example, now this would be a winning check for black. So all the way over here, it was so important that the king was on the black square. So Gukesh could promote with a check. In this position, Gukesh plays against Aryan Tari. Aryan Tari just moved his pawn to b5, attacking the queen. And if you move back with your queen, you have a very passive position and you maybe lose the pawn. So do you see the active and only winning move in this position? Bishop takes b5. Why is it such a good move? Well, of course, you take back. But then what? If you simply take the pawn, yeah, sure, you have two passers here. But this is an equal position. After knight to d3, attacking the rook. Well, there is a brilliant move in this position. A second one for Gukesh. 2 moves, 2 brilliancies. Queen takes a8. And if you take back, don't promote this way, because in the end, this queen is protecting that square. So you have to promote with the d pawn, and if takes, then you're up so much material and you win. This position is so rich. Gukesh sees that there's a devastating check here. But this king can escape to the e7 square. So if you would go here now, this is a drawn position after bishop takes h8. But is there a move where you can prevent the king from going to this square? Yes, there is. And that's the brilliant move bishop takes d4. And if you take with a pawn, then you take away the e7 square, and this is a checkmate. So you have to take with the rook instead. But then there's queen a5, setting up the deadly x-ray. And rook c4 is here the best move, but then it's simply a check. And you cannot go here, and you cannot go here, here, here. There's one move, you go here, but now you cannot give a checkmate because of the rook. You take the rook, and this is a checkmate. In this game, Gukesh plays against Vincent Keymer, and not a huge talent, but then from Germany. Do you see the winning move in this position? There's only one. That is the move g6. You attack the queen. But what if you simply take the bishop? Well, then there's rook f7 check. And you cannot go this way, so you have to go king to e8. But then the queen comes in. Check. But if the knight defends, then the queen hangs. Winning position. So instead, Vincent played the move f6. But then there is this quiet move h3, kicking away the knight. And if the knight would go here, well, then the bishop comes in. You attack the queen, you attack the knight, and more importantly, you help this pawn to promote. And simply you have to take the bishop, and after takes and king e7, there's simply so much material up. Watch out for this attack though, so you have to get rid of your queen here. So instead, Vincent played the move d5 here, helping the rook to get this pawn and then perhaps win the queen. But here Gukesh simply takes the rook, but here Gukesh doesn't care and simply takes the knight. Why? Well, if you take now on c4, pinning the queen to the king, then you simply take the rook, and after takes back, then you have such an amazing position. You simply take the pawn and the queen is under attack. And after, for example, queen to e6 to prevent your queen from being captured, you could just go g7 and king to f7 and bishop to d4, for example. Check, king e7, and the bishop comes in through c5. And if you go back, well, then the rook comes in with a check. The bishop cannot come in between because it's pinned, and you have to move in the queen, takes, and checkmate. But another option, what Gukesh played, is rook to f6, check. If you take, well, then you simply take back, and you will promote at some point. Rook takes c2, takes back, and here bishop a4, for example, doesn't really matter, because even if you take the rook, well, you will promote, and you're up material. So Vincent played king to e8, and after the move g7, threatening to promote, and you cannot really take, because then you simply take the queen, and bishop to g6 check, and after king here, you have a checkmate on f8, for example. So Vincent took the queen, Gukesh took back, and after queen g7, there's a check on g6 anyway, and this is the same checkmating pattern like before, checkmate, with a double check. Do you see the winning game in this position? Well, Gukesh sacrifices the knight with knight takes g6, forking the king and the queen. So you have to take back, but then the queen takes back. And black is in an awkward position. But then what? Black has still a knight against some pawns. Well, after rook e7, defending the 7th row, you go e6, and the knight doesn't want to go here because you need it as a defender. No, the knight goes to the only other square, to f6. But then your rook slides in, setting up the pin. And if, for example, queen to g7, then you take the rook and you're up 3 pawns, even after a queen trade. Or if you decide to attack the queen like this, then you still take the knight. And if takes, then you take the queen and you promote, winning position. Here Gukesh shows his aggressive and great attacking skills. Do you see the Greek gift in this position? Yes, of course. bishop takes h6. If you take back, checkmate. So his opponent doesn't take back. And you can't take with the rook either, because this is a check and you win the rook. So what happened instead? Well, his opponent played rook to c8. But now you simply take the pawn with a check. And of course you cannot go here, because this is a checkmate in 2. Checkmate. So you go to e8, but then there's bishop to f6. And if you take the bishop, then there's a check on g8 and you win the rook. We haven't seen a really good and straightforward queen sack or Botez gambit yet, so it's time for one. Here in this position, after queen to g5, Gukesh plays the move rook to g4. If you take the queen, well, then it's mate in 2. Check. Checkmate. So instead, well, you have to move away the queen, for example. Queen to e7, still protecting this square, but then you simply take, and you take again. But after you take the rook, there's a check and a checkmate. So the best move in this position for black actually is to take the rook, and then you're a rook against a queen up. Here Gukesh plays against Abasov, who he also placed against in the candidates. Do you see the winning move? Well, black has a rook here, it's being attacked by Gukesh king, but at the same time the knight is forking the queen and the rook. But that's what Abasov played in his last move. But there's a winning move here. Can you get rid of the knight? Because if you get rid of the knight, then you can pick up the rook here. So do you see the forcing move and the brilliant move? Knight to f6 check. If you take with the queen, well, you simply take back. And after the knight takes, well, this rook where we were talking about is simply hanging. And if you take back with the knight, well, then the attacker is gone, there's no fork anymore, and you can simply take the knight. And what if you go back? Well, then you simply pick up a pawn. And yes, you can win back the exchange, but you have a passer here now. And this is a better position for white. Great move. Then last but not least, there's one move in this position that keeps the momentum going for white and all other moves lose. Do you see that one and only winning move for white? Yes, h6. Well, if you take the pawn, then there's a check here. And you cannot get in between here, because this is checkmate, but you can defend on f6. But then there's another important idea. Can you get rid of the defender? Yes, rook to g8 check. The king cannot take it because it's being defended, and the rook has to take therefore, but then you got rid of a defender. The queen is undefended, check, rook in between, and rook g1. And this is simply winning. And you cannot move your rook here, well you can, but you simply take it, and this is a checkmate. And if you play the move g6, then there's the same check. You cannot get in between here, because it's simply being attacked, right? So this will be a checkmate. But what if you put your rook or your queen in between to block the attack? Well, both the rook and the queen are important defenders in black's position. If you put the rook in between, then this rook is hanging. Check. And if you put the queen in between, well, you simply trade queens, and the queen was an important defender to the bishop. Takes. And yes, you're just a pawn up here, but such a winning position for white.